Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Moms Who Know podcast, the podcast for moms who know that when they take care of themselves, they can take better care of everyone else. Now, I want to talk to you really quick before we get into the episode about a way that you can take care of yourself and that I want to help you with that. So starting in January, I'm going to be starting a new program called Mind Body Transformation Live. This program is made for people who are where I was about 10 or 15 years ago. And for me, I really struggled to feel good in my body. I would diet and lose weight and I'd gain it back. And oh my gosh, when I would gain those 10 pounds, or even when I was at my thinnest, I just did not feel good in my body. And it was so hard to lose weight, but I could do it. Man, I would muscle through it and I would lose that weight, but it was so easy to gain it back. And I kept looking, what is there? What am I missing here? It shouldn't be so hard. So I spent about 10 years just diving into all the research, seeing what was out there. What could I do that would help me to be a fat burning machine and not to be in a place where I was constantly struggling, like where you feel like if you look at food, you just gain weight automatically. I wanted to be a person who was naturally thin. And for me, this has been the answer. And I want to take you to that place where I'm at, where I can eat really good most of the time and feel really great, but have the leeway to go out on a date with my husband and not have to worry about what's on the menu. So if that sounds like something that would help you, I would love it if you would join me for Mind Body Transformation Live. So for my listeners, anyone who signs up before the end of November, I'm going to throw in a bonus cookbook. This cookbook has over 50 recipes that are healthy, easy to prepare, and I will throw that in for anyone who gets in there before the end of November. Now we start January 1st, and I am so excited to help you guys walk through this process and to help you get healthy, lose weight, but not just for the short term, for life. So if you're excited about that like I am, go to Moms Who Know podcast /Mind Body, and you will get all the details there. Now, today's episode is so much fun. Our guest is Diane Randall, and at the end of the podcast, I told her, I just want to give you a hug. She's just so warm and really has things that I think will help. We talk a lot about self-care on this episode, and I know that there will be a lot of takeaways for all of you. So let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and my guest today is Diane Randall. Diane, thank you for being with us on the show today.
Chanel, thank you for having me.
I have been looking forward to this call because as I looked over what Diane does and what she teaches, I just felt like she was such a good fit for our audience. And really, as I read her stuff, I felt like it aligned so well with what we do here at Moms Who Know. So I'm excited for this conversation. To introduce you, so Diane is an author, consultant, college instructor, and professional speaker. And some of the things that she teaches are whole life wellness methods. She talks about life balance, plant-based nutrition, health, and self-care topics. And also, it's really cool. She was on the Oprah show at one point and has been on several radio shows and nationally recognized publications. So she has a lot to share. So thank you again for being with us. I'm excited to jump in and to learn from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. So I would love to start kind of going back a little bit in what got you interested in health. So kind of your story and what led you to do what you're doing now.
My story is, it started as a 30-year-old single divorced mom with two children. I was trying to navigate my career and my life, this new life that I had, raising kids by myself. I had no tools at the time. I had a lot of stress and health conditions related to just not having any idea of how to balance my wonderful career that I had at the time, an engineer, uh, starting an entrepreneurship, a business, and two children that I had to raise on my own. So I wanted my life, and I knew that if I wanted to be successful, because I realized at that time that success alone would not sustain me. It just wasn't going to happen like that because stress was my best friend at that time. And I was in and out of the hospital because of anxiety and stress. So along the way, I started educating myself and really answering the question, what does it mean to be healthy and well? How can I balance my life with my children and my career? And fast forward, I started researching, educating myself. And when I educated myself, which is so interesting, I became a life coach, because the curriculum was so interested. I became a health coach because that supported me in my life. I ended up getting a master's in spirituality because that allowed me to heal and release a lot of things that were causing me stress and um, just shifting my mind in a way where I could support my children. So it has been a journey to get to a place where I could enjoy my life, enjoy my career, at the same time, be able to withstand challenges as they showed up. Because as we know, as moms with children and families, it's just not an easy thing. And sometimes it gets challenging.
Yes, we can all relate to that. It definitely does. And I think that, as a single mom, I've never gone through that, but that is adding this whole extra layer of challenge and stress and all these things. And I love it that you continued at that point to grow and to really redefine what success meant to you. That's really valuable that kind of shifted for you.
It shifted because what I learned along the way, and believe me, at that time, I never knew I would turn this into a business. I never knew that this would be courses and speaking. I just never knew that this would be my life, but it was right there with me all the time, because that's the main thing we have to do as moms, dads. Figure out, what does success mean? What is that driver in our life? What does it mean? And then you build your life around that.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. That's a great, just kind of a gut punch there. What does success mean? And it's a great thing for all of us to ponder, because sometimes we might be kind of going up the wrong alley thinking that this is success without really realizing what it means to us. So I love that check in there. Now, as a single mom, at that time in your life, you had to feel what so many moms feel, which is busy, 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 lack of time. And I hear this from moms all the time, that they just feel like they don't have enough time. So I'd really love to talk to you about that. So what do you see, and why do moms feel such a lack of time?
Well, moms feel such a lack of time because what we do when we have our families, we are all in. We are all committed to whatever our family needs, whether it's cooking, support, taking care of the kids, going back and forth to activities, helping with homework. As moms, we are all in and we take it all on. So when
True.
someone asks, well, you want to go out and to a party? I don't have time. you know, but my work over the years has told me, and you talked about the question that it's all about the perception of time. It's really a perception, because what I've learned from just supporting people over the years is the priorities are the key to that perception.
Okay. I would love to get a little deeper into that then. How, as moms, do we establish the right priorities that help us to, I don't want to say free up our time, but help us to take control of our time?
Well, it is about freeing up. It is about taking control. And and the first thing I say is you don't want to add to a plate that's already full. So what I do with people I've worked with over the years, because even just to get people to work with me, I literally had to help them go through their schedule, their priorities, to take a look at and be honest about what am I really doing with my time. And a big part of that was I had them track their day from the time they woke up, meaning, did they have a commute at work? What were the main activities of the day, and track that for a week. And I tell you, Chanel, a lot of times, and I still use that method today, because you really don't know where all your time is going unless you track it. Yes, for the most part, right? But if you start tracking, what people have found and moms have found is that there are activities that they may be doing that they say, wow, I am actually spending, for example, an hour a day on Facebook. Do I really need to be on Facebook for an hour? Maybe if I cut that into 30 minutes, cut that, because I say the way we spend our time, that shows the priorities of our lives. So if you're spending an hour every day on Facebook, and this is just an example, I'm not judging anybody. You are spending an hour. So you're spending an hour, and that's what I'm calling a priority, because it's something that you're doing every day, as an example, as a small example. So just to sum it up, it's looking at your priorities, what you say are important to you, because what's important to you, you are doing on a daily basis, and this is above and beyond the duties of that you must do for your children as a mom.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's so powerful to be able to see. I know that the iPhone now tells you spent an average of however many minutes on your phone each day. And sometimes when I see that little report from my phone, I am like, whoa, I did? I had no idea I was on my phone that much. And I don't know how it's calculating. I think sometimes it's even when I'm listening to a podcast while hey, phone, I was folding my laundry while I was listening to that podcast, but still, it still surprises me. And so I think it's a really valuable exercise to see that. And like you said, no judgment there, but you want to be aware of where your time is going, because if you are saying, I don't have enough time, and then you're looking at where you're spending your time, do those line up? Like, would you have enough time if you weren't spending, an hour on Facebook? So I love that. Establishing priorities, which really leads into the next one, which is reevaluate your priorities. So after you've taken a hard look at where you're spending your time, where do you go from there?
Once you take a hard look of where you're spending your time, it's about what can you take away or reevaluate. So if you have children, and I'm not talking little bitty children, the question I've asked moms over the years, what can your children, how can your children support you? are they big enough to clean up their room or pick up their toys? You know, if you're spending an hour or 2 hours cleaning up behind your little, are they big enough to support you and help you with some of that responsibility? And that frees up a little time for you to do some things that can support you in your self-care. Because as moms, that goes by the wayside a lot of times, unless it's what I call now, and I've intentional. And it's about becoming, reevaluating your priorities, using your time for what you really want. And it's being intentional with those priorities. Yes, a lot of the priorities will look the same as you reevaluate, but there are priorities that, wow, you're like, I'm going to this meeting every month after work. And it's just that I've just been doing this forever because I thought it would help my career, for example. And then you find out that when you really do that deep exploration into your priorities and you start to reevaluate, you start looking deeply and honestly at how you're using your time. And then you reestablish and reevaluate those priorities one at a time. And I'm not advocating that this is just an easy breezy thing to do, but it's going to take work. It's going to take courage, because guess what? You may have to set some new boundaries so that you can have a different priority or different priorities in your life. And sometimes it can be a challenge, but it's being willing and open to reassess your priorities, reevaluate them in a way that supports what you want in your life.
Yeah, as I'm listening, I'm thinking about what this looks like on a practical level for me. And one thing that comes up is I love the example you said about, having your kids do more for themselves and just reevaluating where you're spending your time. So for me, one thing that I spend my time doing is picking up after my kids when they drop stuff on the floor. And really, my kids are old enough that they shouldn't be dropping stuff on the floor. And I need to go back and reevaluate, how do I teach them to do that for themselves and make sure that that happens so that I am not spending my time doing that for them. And some things we have going on well, like, they do their own laundry and that frees up some of my time. But there are little things, and I'm sure for all of you listening, as you think through your day, there are ways that you can kind of reevaluate where you're spending your time and how you can shift that. And you mentioned in there that then when we reevaluate, when we kind of free up this time, that some of that time needs to be taken for ourselves. And self-care is something we love talking about here on Moms Who Know. And so I'd love for some new ideas on how moms can really incorporate this self-care element into their lives.
Well, and I say it's some moms, if you have really small children, you can't just take the afternoon and go and get a massage. Okay. Right. So one of the things, and what I advocate, is making time for yourself is your number one priority, because guess what? When you show up for yourself, you show up for everyone else. I mean, you've heard the old adage, put your mask on first when you're on the airplane. It is true, because if you're run down, then that is a ripple effect through everyone, because you aren't able to be at your best. So we all know as moms, when we're not feeling at our best, how things might unfold. We're tired, we're stressed, we don't want to play, we just want to do the things we have to do so that, the family can keep going. And maybe that doesn't support our well-being or our self-care. But as mothers, you just want to keep the household going, and then you let yourself go. So what I advocate is that you spend your time and energy on things that bring you joy and make some decisions on what you want instead of what others want. And part of that is learning how to set boundaries and examining how much of you is being taken away by others. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. What I mean is just a self-examination of, okay, what am I doing for other people? Number one, that they can do themselves. Looking at how people can be self-sufficient in a lot of ways so that you can make yourself more of a priority and just get you in there a little. I remember when my kids were really young, I always knew that and always constantly looked at my priorities, what I was doing with my life, because it's like I didn't feel that I could really show up the way I really wanted to in every aspect of my kids' life when I was run down and I was stressed out.
Yeah, I think we all feel that. You just can't. And you get to this point where you're taking care of other people so much that you can't anymore. And yet if you take care of yourself, you do have stuff left to give. So I am really pondering here this question and this thought. You said how much of you is being taken away by others. It's a really interesting concept and an interesting balance there that we have to find between giving and receiving, giving to ourselves.
Yes.
Any tips on how to balance that out? Because of course it can shift too far the other way. We don't want it to be all about us, right? So how do we find that?
Well, first of all, I tell moms to get over feeling that it's selfish to think in this way. What I advocate is that it's self-honoring. It is self-honoring to practice self-care. Practice self-care, because when you practice self-care, you feel energized, you can do more. And what you can do, you can incorporate little things through the day that can support you in your self-care. For example, if you have a little one at home and let's say that child goes down for a nap, part of your self-care is to sit down, take a breath, relax, maybe do some mindfulness exercises, maybe exercise a little bit. It's just about you at that time to relax and just turn into yourself and be more intentional about your self-care for that time. Let's say that child sleeps for 2 hours. Oh, some people are saying, I don't have 2 hours, but this is about, I know, this is about taking the time. And maybe it's not that 2 hours, but some of that time should be a priority for you. That's all I'm saying. Where in your day can you incorporate little things that can support you? Because all these little things can equal big self-care, balance, quality of life, input into your body, your mind, and your spirit. All of it counts.
Yes. Okay. I love that. I think that's so valuable because it's true. Just you do what you can. You find those little moments. Maybe it's in the morning before the kids wake up. Maybe it's during nap time. Maybe it's a few minutes after your husband comes home and he watches the kids for a little while so you can go take a bath or whatever it is. But finding those little times throughout the day, very powerful.
And what I can say is this shifts. There's ebbs and flows. Things change. Sometimes you'll have more time. Sometimes you'll have less time. The main point I'm trying to make here is put you in your schedule.
Yes, definitely. And sometimes we forget. It's so good to be reminded. Now, the last little thing that we wanted to talk about to help moms feel like they have more time is treat time as a gift. Talk to us about how we do that.
Well, What I would add to that today is that if you found out that you had just a few weeks to live, you got the worst news in your life, what would become most important to you? That's just a question. Would you become more intentional about your life? And what I'm advocating and what I say is live your life as if you have 30 days. Make time for yourself. It's very, very important because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And all we have is the present moment. Nothing is promised to any of us. Nothing. So it's important to bring a little joy and fulfillment in your life in the present moment, not saving it up when the kids get this age or that age and when they grow up. You have no idea what the future will bring because truthfully, all we have is the present moment. And it's freeing up your time and treating it as something very intentional and special because that's what you have in the moment.
Yes. Okay. I love this theme that has come up in so many of these things that we've gone over today about being intentional. It's so important to come at life and at motherhood from this place of deciding, what do I want to be? How do I want to serve? How do I want to do motherhood? And to make a conscious and intentional choice. Because if we don't, everyone's needs, all the things that go on just can pile up without us ever choosing. And we get kind of caught up in this river. And that's when we feel like, I don't have time. I'm so stressed. But when we take a step back, like you've talked to us about today, and we're intentional and we make that choice, that's when it's magic because we are choosing, we're taking that responsibility on ourselves to choose and to create the life we want.
Create the life we want. And like you just said, it's conscious work. It's very intentional, and it's very important to be present. And I know as a mom, sometimes, it's hard to even be present, but it's coming back to that as your center as much as you can.
Yes. Okay. So good. Now, I know people are going to want to learn more from you. Where is the best place that they can find you?
They can find me at www.dianerandallconsults.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we will link to that. And any final thoughts for our listeners? We've talked about lots of great things today. Anything that you would add?
The only thing I would add in this moment is for the listeners to just think about one thing different that they can do in terms of their time tomorrow. One thing they could look at in their schedule that they can reevaluate to see where they can put themselves in their schedule and on their own plate of life.
I love that action step. I will do it. Listeners, I encourage you all to take that challenge and to do that also. And I love that you said tomorrow. Don't wait like, oh, I'll do this in a few weeks. Put it into practice tomorrow. One thing that you can do different. So awesome. And I'd love to hear you guys how that goes. Let me know on Instagram or Facebook. Reach out and let me know what you're reevaluating and what's going to be different because of Diane's good advice and wisdom. So thank you, Diane, for being with us. I sure appreciate all the things you've shared. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Moms Who Know. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, for show notes, visit momswhoknowpodcast.com. And while you're there, click over to Mind Body so that you can get all the details about Mind Body Transformation Live.